Whenever we think back on long-running films and games, we get a few ideas in our heads. Star Wars and Star Trek's decades-long sci-fi adventures, Fast and Furious's fast-paced racing and over-the-top action, Call of Duty and their long-run legacy of being the FPS king of the year that dot the world today, franchises that withstood the test of competition in time to be recognized as cornerstones in the lives of many. Franchises in essence is a media safe bet. If it were a game of roulette, franchises would be a bet on black or red. It's safe, has a high chance of at least making a good profit, and why try and gamble with something new and risky when the same strategy has kept them in the positive year after year? The problem with this gamble is it becomes predictable, so predictable that it becomes a significant weakness to a franchise and must end at some point. Stagnation is a good word to describe it. As for the franchise, a sense of sameness becomes apparent. Assassin's Creed will always have its climbable landmarks to see the map, to see the pointless collectibles, and sketchy side quests that are only decent at the best of times. Climb Far Cry's radio tower to see the map, make ammos and weapons packs out of bare asses and alligator teeth, and cliched NPCs that fit into narrow stereotypes and tropes. Most others like Call of Duty and Gears of War just don't innovate or push their games in a way that is agreeable with their fans and viewers. Franchises need to change in order to survive in a society that is constantly seeking improvement and enhancement. Eventually, without change, franchises suffer something called viewer fatigue. People who used to eat up their content with such high quality and with such frequency will simply drop off. This will usually end with the franchise either dying off, going dormant, or to change in the hopes that it would appease the people who used to watch it. With this idea of viewer fatigue, is it safe to say that all franchises will have to come to face this challenge only to fail and be rendered non-existent, i.e. go the way of Duke Nukem? Let's look at a few examples of franchises gone bad. We all remember Star Wars, how Luke blew up the Death Star and saved the rebels, how he saved his father and defeated the Emperor. Around the time before the prequels, people were getting excited to see how Anakin became Darth Vader, how the Empire rose to dominate the land. But what we got was, well...
I don't like sand. It's coarse, rough and irritating, and it gets everywhere. Here everything is soft and smooth.
I shouldn't have done that.
I'm sorry.
The new trilogy holds some promise, playing off the same story beats and tropes in the original, but time will only tell if it can escape the bubble of the originals and carve its own unique story, or if it'll fall back into the same story beats that people have been criticizing Episode 7 of having. Everyone who owned a console back in the mid to late 2000s probably played Call of Duty, primarily the Modern Warfare series. One of the highest selling game series year after year, grossing billions of dollars to offer a connection to the game, its story, multiplayer, and usually the other one-off items that kept us invested in playing. Flash forward today and we can see that connection is lost or severely diminished. The latest entry was seen as so weak that it needed to be joined up to the hip with a remaster of one of the critically acclaimed predecessors, Modern Warfare. Though the next entry, World War II, could hold some promise, it's going to be a hard track to see if it can shake off the bad habits developed, such as the paid microtransactions not covered by the Season Pass. You can tell how people began to view Assassin's Creed copy-pasted climbing, fighting, and overall movement systems. The quality of the story diminished as production times were moved to a yearly cycle. Any and all cuttable corners were cut, and eventually the franchise was put into deep storage, only up until recently. Time is something that can help or hinder a franchise. It can bring out the faults and errors that only a fanbase in the future can see, or it can strengthen someone's devotion to it. For all the bad I talk about franchises, there's a lot of positive about it. Perhaps in the future I will discuss this, but back to the topic at hand. The biggest problem a franchise has to face is how to stay popular and how to balance between new and old ideas. If it changes too drastically, there's an idea that the franchise has lost its identity and loses the same sense of cohesion that the originals had, i.e. the prequels to the Star Wars. On the flip side, if the franchise refuses to change at all, it will stagnate and people will lose interest into it, i.e. Call of Duty before Advanced Warfare. Franchises, for all their flaws, are a good thing, given that they retain the same heart and quality and fan service that they started with, but at times stepping up that quality and bringing in new innovation. There's only when a franchise either changes too much or not at all that it can suffer and die. What a franchise needs and what a consumer desires will always be at odds, so compromise is the best option. A franchise can only fall if it loses its identity and the trust of its consumers.